So welcome to my first proper YouTube video. So if you guys don't know me, my name's Arian and I've been training for almost 2 years now. And the purpose of this channel, the reason why I made this channel is to help others in their fitness journey and to teach what I've learned through these past 2 years of training. So as you guys read the title, this video is going to be about 5 tips for beginners that helped me go from this to this. Okay, so first tip I have for beginners, and it's probably the harshest tip out of all these 5 tips, is that genetics play a massive role. I'm sorry, but you'll never ever look like your favorite influencer. You'll never ever look like David Lade, Chris Bumstead, Jesse James West. It is what it is. But you gotta understand this. Regardless of your genetics, if you train hard for 5 to 10 years, you're still gonna have an amazing physique regardless of your genetics. Some people, in terms of genetics, some people might have better genetics than others. What do I mean by better genetics? They might have good muscle insertions, they might have better bone structure. Yeah, it might be easier for them to build muscle. Yeah, regardless of your genetics, if you train hard, if you eat well, and if you sleep right over a consistent period, you're gonna look better than most people. Trust me, I can speak from experience, because if you think about it, nowadays most people don't even touch a weight. Most people don't even lift. Most people are sleep deprived, and most people, they don't just eat junk all day. Like, most people, they don't take the diet seriously. So if you are disciplined, and if you train hard, eat well, and sleep right, you're gonna look better than most people, regardless of your genetics. And I think genetics is a really subjective topic, because if you think about it, you might not have the best chest genetics, but you might have, good back genetics. You might not have the best leg genetics, but your shoulders are really good. See what I mean? So genetics is a really subjective topic. The second tip that I have for beginners is prioritizing your form over the weight. Guys, don't be one of the guys who go into the gym first day and they try and bench 100 kilos. That's just not realistic, is it? You're gonna get yourself injured. And if you practice proper form, that's what's actually gonna help your muscles grow. It's not about the weight you use, but it's actually about your form. Starting the way, you have to actually progressively overload. So let me give you an example of that. So progressive overload could be increasing weight, increasing reps, increasing sets, or decreasing rest time over time. Decreasing your rest time over time. So let me give you an example. So say for example, this week you're doing 10 kilos on shoulder press, 10 kilos dumbbells on shoulder press, and then for about 8 reps. Next week, you're gonna try to do 10 kilos for 10 reps. The next week after that, 10 kilos for 12 reps. Once you've hit the top range, once you've hit 12 reps, then you're gonna increase the weight. So the next week after that, you're gonna try to do 12.5 kilos for 8 reps. And then just continue the process over time. And that's how you're gonna gain muscle. That's the only way you should be increasing weight. Other than that, don't try, and don't be stupid, and don't ego lift. You're gonna get yourself hurt. It's gonna be bad, and it's gonna be detrimental for your long-term progress. Third tip that I wish I knew as a beginner is that carbs are not your enemy. Guys, carbs are so underrated. Like, I don't know why everyone thinks carbs are bad for you and it's gonna make you fat. Literally, they're not. The only time you're gonna get fat is if you eat in a calorie surplus. So basically, carbohydrates, basic knowledge, is your main fuel source. Without carbohydrates, you wouldn't be able to really carry out day-to-day activities in an optimal manner. So carbs are actually really important, and they're essential for muscle growth. Let me tell you why. So basically, if you don't intake enough carbs, say for example you only intake protein, you don't intake enough carbs, then your body is going to use the protein as a fuel source. It's going to use the protein for energy instead of the carbohydrates, since you're not intaking any carbs. So it has no choice but to use protein for the fuel source, and you're not going to be able to build muscle properly. So yeah, that's why having carbohydrates is a must in your diet, especially if you're lifting really heavy and you're training really hard. Examples of carbohydrates could be, potatoes, rice, quinoa, what else? Sweet potatoes, bread, wholemeal bread, pasta, any type of carb sources. Actually, don't. What I recommend you guys to do is stick to complex carbs mostly, and stay away from like sugary foods. So stick to carbs that I just mentioned, and stay away from any other type of carbs such as, refined sugars, processed foods. Those are just gonna make you feel like shit all the time, and it's not gonna be optimal. It's not gonna be optimal for muscle growth, and it's not gonna be optimal in giving you the most energy. Stick to whole natural foods instead of processed shit. The fourth tip I wish I knew as a beginner is that you must bulk. Guys, if you're not starting off overweight, if you're starting off really skinny, or if you're starting off even skinny fat like I started off, you must bulk. You must pack on some size before you're able to cut. Because if you shred, what are you going to shred down to if you don't have any muscle? This was a mistake I made when I started lifting. I used to see all these social media influencers who were shredded out to the bone, and all I wanted to do was just look like them and look good on the beach. Little did I know that I didn't actually have any muscle mass underneath, and basically I was cutting. I just looked small, and I just looked really skinny. And the thing that I don't understand is, why are you trying to look shredded when most of the time you're gonna be literally wearing a shirt? Most of the time, 90% of the time, when you're at school, when you're at work, you're literally gonna be wearing a shirt. So no one cares about your abs, bro. I'm sorry, but no one gives a shit about your abs because you can't even see them 90% of the time. So yeah, try bulk up first. Try fill out those t-shirts so people actually know that you lift. So you should be spending 80% of your time on a bulk, and the other 20% of the time maybe in a cut. So basically, maybe if you wanna look good shirtless on the beach, it's summer, you wanna look good with a shirt off. That's the only time you should be cutting. Another thing, don't be afraid to gain a little bit of fat, because you need to gain a little bit of fat in order to gain a lot of muscle. This was a mistake I made as a beginner. I was actually afraid to bulk. Because I was scared I was going to look fat, but that's not going to happen. If you gain a little bit of fat but you gain a lot of muscle, trust me, no one's even going to notice the fat that you put on. So yeah, don't be afraid to put on a little bit of fat, because it's actually essential for your long-term progress. And plus, it's much easier to cut off fat than it is to build muscle. To build muscle, it takes years. But to cut off fat, you can, you can get shredded within 12 to 20 weeks following like a simple bodybuilding diet. The bodybuilding diet that pro bodybuilders use in order to prep for their show. Yeah, if you follow one of those diets, you can get shredded easy in like 12 to 20 weeks. So yeah, don't worry about gaining just a tiny bit of fat. So the last tip that I have for you guys is consistency is key. This is the most important one, hence that's why I left it until the end. So basically, if you aren't consistent, so say for example, 1 week you're going 5 days a week, next day you go 2 days, the next week you go 2 days, and then the week after that you don't go at all, you're not being consistent. You're not going to make progress like that. You must follow a structured training regimen and a well-rounded diet plan in order to make long-term progress. Because I actually have a few friends who they're not consistent, and they wonder why they can't make any progress. They wonder why they can't make any gains. I want you guys to remember this one thing, yeah? It really doesn't matter about the habits you do in one day, or even 1 week, or maybe even a fortnight. What really matters is what you do over the course of weeks, months, years, maybe even decades. That's going to determine your results. So yeah, if you eat bad, maybe if you have one cheat meal, it's not really going to affect you that much. But if you eat it like every single day for the course of weeks, months, you're going to get out of shape. Same thing for the gym. You must stay consistent in the gym over the course of weeks, months, and years in order to see progress. Sorry, but that's just how it is. Most people, they can't be consistent. Most people are not consistent. That's why the average man doesn't have, like, bulging pecs and massive arms. That's why the average guy on the street that you walk by on a day-to-day basis, they're pretty much out of shape. It's because they can't stay consistent. They go to the gym for 1 or 2 months and then they stop. They stop completely. They're not like, have you guys ever heard of New Year's resolution, where basically everyone's like, oh, in the 1st January, I'm gonna change everything, I'm gonna go to the gym, I'm gonna get my diet on check, and then they do that for like about 1 or 2 weeks, and then they give up, and then they make no progress. Why? Because they just simply can't stay consistent. So yeah, in my opinion, this, out of all the 5 tips I mentioned, this is the most important one. Consistency is probably the most important aspect, or the most important factor in order for you to make long-term progress. So to sum it all up, my 5 tips for beginners are: understanding that genetics play a role, prioritizing form over weight, understanding that carbs are not your enemy, understanding that you must bulk in order to make long-term progress, and understanding that consistency is key. So, hope you guys enjoyed my video. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.